You really don't recognize me? The bride's voice cut through the blizzard like a knife through bone. Ryder Callahan froze in the snow, whiskey bottle halfway to his lips. 15 years. 15 goddamn years he'd buried that voice in the mountains. I'm the girl you abandoned, Eli. His birth name. The one he'd killed the night he left her crying in the ashes. Eleanor Whitfield stood there in white silken pearls, married to the richest bastard in Colorado Territory, and her eyes said only one thing. You left me to die, and I survived anyway. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and stay with this story until the very end. Comment below what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. The mountain man didn't move. Couldn't move. Snow piled on his shoulders while Eleanor stood there shaking. Not from cold, but from something that looked like rage wearing a wedding dress. Say something, she whispered. Say anything. Ryder's throat worked. Eleanor, don't. She stepped closer. Close enough he could smell roses and something bitter underneath. Perfume trying to cover fear. Don't you dare say my name like you earned the right. Behind her, the church bells rang out celebration. Laughter spilled from the chapel doors. A man's voice called out, deep and possessive. Eleanor! Where'd my bride run off to? She flinched. Actually flinched. And Ryder saw it then. The thing she was hiding beneath the veil and the smile. The raw edge of terror. You need to leave town, Eleanor said quickly. Tonight, before Clayton sees you. Who the hell is Clayton? My husband. The word came out like poison. The man who owns half this territory. The man who... She stopped. Glanced back toward the church. Just go, please. If he finds out you're here. Finds out what? Ryder caught her wrist. Gentle. The way you'd handle broken glass. Eleanor, what did you get yourself into? She laughed, cold and sharp. You don't get to ask me that. You don't get to ride into town after 15 years and pretend you care what happened to the girl you left in a burning barn. The words hit like buckshot. That fire wasn't your fault? Eleanor jerked free. Is that what you've been telling yourself up there in the mountains? That you left because you were protecting me? Her voice cracked. My father died that night, Eli. You disappeared before sunrise. I was 13 years old, and you were the only person I had left in the world. Ryder's jaw locked. I know. Do you? Tears froze on her cheeks. Do you know what happens to orphan girls in frontier towns? Do you know how many men tried to buy me before I turned 16? Do you know what I had to do to survive? Eleanor, I married Clayton Pierce because he paid my mother's funeral expenses. The confession came out flat. Dead. She died 2 weeks ago. Laudanum overdose. The doctor said it was grief. I think she just couldn't stand watching me become her. Behind them, footsteps crunched through snow. A man's silhouette appeared in the church doorway. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black wool and polished silver. Clayton Pierce. Even from 50 feet away, Ryder could feel the weight of his stare. Eleanor. The name rolled out smooth as snake oil. You're catching your death out here, darling. Come inside. It wasn't a request. Eleanor straightened, wiped her face, became someone else entirely. Someone small and obedient and hollow. Yes, husband. She turned to Ryder one last time, whispered, Forget you saw me. Then she walked back through the snow like a woman heading for the gallows. Clayton Pierce smiled as she approached, wrapped his arm around her waist. Possessive. His gaze locked on Ryder across the distance, cold and measuring, before he guided Eleanor inside and shut the door. The bells stopped ringing. Ryder stood alone in the blizzard, tasting something worse than whiskey in his mouth. Guilt. The kind that doesn't wash away with time or distance or all the lies you tell yourself in the dark. The saloon was empty, except for the bartender and a drunk passed out in the corner. Ryder sat at the bar, staring into a glass he hadn't touched. "You knew Eleanor Whitfield?" The bartender's voice was careful. Too careful. "Long time ago." "Then you know she just married Clayton Pierce." "I was at the wedding." The bartender wiped down the counter. Slow circles. "Then you know to stay away from her." Ryder's eyes lifted. "That a warning?" "That's common sense." The man leaned in, lowered his voice. "Pierce owns the freight company, half the mining claims, and every politician worth bribing between here and Denver. His first wife died last year. Fell down the stairs." He paused. "At least, that's what the sheriff wrote in his report." "Sheriff wrote what Pierce told him to write?" "Sheriff drinks for free at Pierce's table." The bartender straightened. "Look, you seem like a decent man. Whatever history you got with that girl, leave it buried. Pierce don't share, and he don't forgive." Ryder finally drank. The whiskey burned going down, but didn't touch the cold spreading through his chest. "How long they been courting?" "Courting?" The bartender laughed bitterly. "Her mama died on a Tuesday. Pierce paid the funeral expenses Wednesday. Proposed Thursday. They were married by Sunday." He shook his head. "That ain't courting. That's acquiring property." The drunk in the corner stirred, mumbling something about wolves and winter. Ryder's hands tightened on the glass. "She got family? Anyone looking out for her?" "You mean besides the husband who locked her in his estate?" The bartender's voice dropped to almost nothing. "Housemaid came into town yesterday. Said Eleanor's been crying at night. Said Pierce told the staff she's adjusting to married life and not to disturb her." He met Ryder's eyes. "She's a prisoner, mister. But she's a legal prisoner. Law says a wife belongs to her husband, especially when that husband owns the law." Ryder set down his glass. "Where's this estate?" "Don't. Where?" The bartender sighed. "North end of town. Big house with black iron gates. You'll know it when you see it." He paused. "But you won't see her. Pierce keeps her inside. Says she's delicate. Says the mountain air makes her hysterical." Hysterical. The word men used when women told the truth too loud. Ryder stood, dropped coins on the bar. "You ride out tonight," the bartender said quietly. "You might make it over the pass before the next storm hits." "Yeah. But you're not leaving, are you?" Ryder pulled on his coat. "Tell me something. That first wife who fell down the stairs, anyone ask questions?" "Doctor did. Once." The bartender's face went grim. "Now he keeps his mouth shut and his practice running. That's how it works here. You buck Clayton Pierce, you lose everything. Your business, your reputation, sometimes your life. Sounds like a town that forgot how to stand up. Sounds like a town that wants to survive." The bartender leaned forward. "Whatever you're thinking, don't. That girl made her choice. She signed the papers. She said the vows. There's no unwinding that. Not without bloodshed." Ryder headed for the door. "Where are you going?" "To remember something I should have never forgotten." "What's that?" "How to stop running." The Pierce estate sat behind gates that looked like they were built to keep out armies. Ryder watched from the tree line as lamplight flickered in an upstairs window. A shadow moved behind the glass, small, pacing. Eleanor. He'd left her once, told himself it was mercy, that she'd be better off without a guilt-ridden boy who couldn't save her father from burning alive, that she'd find someone good, someone whole. Instead, she'd found Clayton Pierce, or Pierce had found her. Movement near the gate. A maid slipped out, shawl wrapped tight, hurrying toward town. Ryder intercepted her 2 blocks away. "I need to talk to you." She gasped, nearly dropped her basket. "Who are you?" Someone who knew Eleanor before she became Mrs. Pierce. The maid's eyes widened. "You're the mountain man, the one from the wedding." "She mentioned me?" "She screamed your name in her sleep last night." The maid glanced back toward the estate. "Then, Mr. Pierce came in and told her to be quiet, or he'd give her something to really cry about." Ryder's blood went cold. "He hit her?" "I don't know. I heard the door lock, from the outside." The maid's voice shook. "This morning she came down wearing long sleeves, even though the fire was blazing. She wouldn't look anyone in the eye." "Is she hurt?" "I don't know. He won't let her see the doctor. Says she's just adjusting. Says she's emotional because of her mother's death." The maid stepped closer. "But I've worked in that house for 2 years. I worked for the first Mrs. Pierce." She paused. "She wore long sleeves too." Toward the end. The wind picked up. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. "Can you get a message to Eleanor?" Ryder asked. "No, Mr. Pierce reads all her letters. Screens all her visitors. She's not allowed to leave the house without him." The maid's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I wish I could help. But if I lose this position, my children starve." "That's how it is here. You do what Pierce says, or you lose everything." "What's your name?" "Mary." "Mary, if anything happens, if Eleanor is in danger—" "Then what?" Mary's voice turned sharp. "You'll rescue her? You'll fight Clayton Pierce? He's got money and guns and half the territory in his pocket. You're one man with a horse and a grudge." She shook her head. "That girl needed you 15 years ago. She needed you when her father died. She needed you when her mother drank herself to death. She needed you when Pierce showed up with his contract and his smile and his promises of security." Mary's voice cracked. "Where were you then?" The question hung in the frozen air like an accusation. "I was wrong," Ryder said quietly. "I was a coward, and I was wrong." "Then be smart now. Leave. Forgive yourself up in those mountains. Live your life." Mary gathered her shawl. "That girl's already been abandoned once. Don't make her watch you ride away again." She hurried off into the night. Ryder stood alone, staring at the estate, at the window where Eleanor paced behind glass and iron. He thought about the bartender's warning, about Mary's fear, about 15 years of running from guilt. Then he thought about Eleanor's voice in the snow. "You left me to die, and I survived anyway." Not survival. Endurance. There was a difference. Ryder made a decision. He wouldn't leave at dawn. Wouldn't disappear into the mountains like smoke. He'd stay. He'd watch. And if Clayton Pierce gave him one reason, just one, he'd remind this town what happened when you caged something that was born to be free. Even if it meant burning everything down to set her loose. The next morning, Ryder took a room above the general store, window facing the Pierce estate. Close enough to watch, far enough not to draw attention. The storekeeper, an old woman named Agnes, took his money without asking questions. "You planning to stay long?" she asked. "Depends." "On what?" "On whether this town remembers what justice looks like." Agnes studied him with sharp eyes. "Justice died here about the same time Clayton Pierce's first wife did. You'd do better looking for it somewhere else." "Maybe." Ryder moved to the window, watched the black gates. "Or maybe it just needs someone to dig it back up." Agnes made a sound between a laugh and a sigh. "Men like you, idealists with guns, you always think you can fix what's broken. But some things are too far gone. She's not a thing. She's a person. She's a wife. In the eyes of the law, That's the same as property. Agnes headed for the stairs. But I'll tell you this much. If you're fool enough to go against Pierce, don't do it halfway. Men who wound him don't live long enough to regret it. She left him alone with the window and the watching. Hours passed. No sign of Eleanor. Then, just before noon, the front door opened. Clayton Pierce emerged in a tailored coat and polished boots. He spoke to someone inside, sharp, commanding, then climbed into his carriage and headed toward town. Ryder waited. 10 minutes later, Eleanor appeared at the upstairs window. She pressed her hand against the glass, stood there like someone drowning behind ice. Then she turned away and the curtain fell shut. Ryder grabbed his coat. The back gate was locked, but the wall was scalable. Ryder dropped into the garden just as Mary came around the corner with a laundry basket. She gasped. "What are you—" "I need to see her." "Are you insane? If Mr. Pierce finds you here—" "He's in town. I watched him leave." Mary's hand shook on the basket. "He has men, security. They patrol the grounds every hour." "Then we've got 40 minutes. Ryder moved toward the house. "Which window is hers?" "I can't." "Mary." He stopped, looked at her. "How many more bruises does she need before you decide your job isn't worth her life?" The maid's face crumpled. "Second floor, east wing, third window from the corner." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "But the door's locked, from the outside." "Then I'll go through the window." "It's 20 feet up." "I've climbed worse." Mary stared at him for a long moment. Then she set down the basket and pulled a key from her apron. "Kitchen door. Turn left at the top of the stairs. Third door on the right." She pressed the key into his hand. "You've got 30 minutes before the guards circle back. If they find you, I never saw you. Understand?" "Understood." "And mister?" Mary's eyes filled. "If you get her killed, I'll never forgive you." "If I don't try, I'll never forgive myself." He took the stairs 2 at a time. The third door was oak, heavy. A key sat in the outside lock. Ryder knocked softly. "Eleanor?" Silence. Then, "Go away." "It's Eli." A pause. Footsteps. The sound of someone pressing against the door from the other side. "You shouldn't be here." Her voice was muffled but clear. "If Clayton finds you—" "He's in town." "He has men watching." "I know. We don't have much time." Ryder kept his voice low. "I need you to tell me the truth. Did he hurt you?" "I'm fine." "Eleanor." "I said I'm fine." "Then open the door and let me see." Silence again. Longer this time. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I don't have the key." The confession came out broken. "Clayton locks it when he leaves. Says it's for my safety. Says the altitude makes me dizzy. Says I might fall." Ryder's jaw clenched. "That's a lie." "Of course it's a lie." Eleanor's voice turned sharp. "Everything about this marriage is a lie. But I signed the papers. I said the vows. I made my choice." "Under duress." "Under reality," she laughed bitterly. "You think I had options? You think men were lining up to marry a broke orphan with a dead drunk for a mother?" Her voice cracked. "Clayton offered security, a roof, respectability. I was stupid enough to think that was the same as safety." Ryder pulled out the key Mary had given him, started to unlock the door. "Don't!" Eleanor's voice went sharp with panic. "If he sees that lock's been tampered with, then we'll put it back exactly how we found it." Ryder turned the key. The lock clicked open. Eleanor stood on the other side in a pale blue dress, long sleeves, high collar, and bruises. Purple fingerprints around her wrists. A shadow on her jaw that makeup couldn't quite hide. Ryder's vision went red. Who did this? My husband. She said it flat, matter of fact, like she was reporting the weather. He says I talk back too much. Says a wife should know her place. Jesus Christ, Eleanor, don't. She stepped back. Don't look at me like that, like I'm some broken thing that needs saving. Her voice turned cold. You want to know the worst part? It's not the bruises. It's not the locked doors. It's the fact that everyone in this town knows and nobody cares. The sheriff, the judge, the doctor, they all know. And they all look the other way because Clayton Pierce pays their salaries and funds their campaigns and holds their debts. She met his eyes. So don't stand there playing hero, Eli. You're 15 years too late. I know. Do you? Eleanor's composure cracked. Do you know what it's like to scream for help and have everyone pretend they can't hear you? To watch your husband smile at church on Sunday and beat you on Monday, and have the whole town call it marital adjustment? Tears streamed down her face. I'm trapped. Legally, financially, socially. There's no divorce in this territory without the husband's consent. There's no shelter for wives. There's no law that says a man can't discipline his property. You're not property. Tell that to the marriage certificate. She wiped her face. Now get out, before someone sees you and makes this worse. Ryder didn't move. Come with me. To where? Anywhere. Montana, California, Mexico. Somewhere he can't reach. He'd find me. Men like Clayton don't let their possessions walk away. Eleanor shook her head. And even if we ran, what then? I'd be branded an adulteress, a runaway wife. No respectable town would take me in. No job would hire me. I'd be worse off than I am now. You'd be alive. Would I? Her voice went quiet. Or would I just be waiting for the day he catches up? For the bullet, or the knife, or the accident that makes me disappear? She stepped back toward the window. At least here I know the rules. I know how to survive. Survival isn't living. It's all I've got. Outside, voices. The guards returning early. Eleanor's eyes went wide. You need to go, now. Ryder moved to the window, looked down at the 20-foot drop to the garden below. I'll come back. Don't. Eleanor, promise me you won't come back. She grabbed his arm, desperate. Promise me you'll leave town and forget you ever saw me. Please. If Clayton finds out you were here, he'll kill you. And then he'll make me watch. And then he'll remind me every day for the rest of my life that you died because of me. The voices grew louder, boots on gravel. Ryder climbed onto the windowsill. I'm not leaving you here. You don't get a choice. Eleanor's voice broke. You left me once. Now I'm leaving you. We're even. He dropped into the garden just as the guards rounded the corner. Know who it was from. Ryder opened it. Mary's handwriting. Shaky, but clear. He knows. Get out of town. He crumpled the paper. When did she leave this? Hour ago, right after Clayton Pierce came in asking if anyone had seen a mountain man hanging around. The bartender's voice went quiet. He's looking for you. Let him look. You're a fool. Probably. Ryder finished his drink. But I'm done running from men who think money buys them the right to destroy lives. The saloon door slammed open. Clayton Pierce stood in the entrance, flanked by 2 hired guns. His eyes swept the room and locked on Ryder. You! Pierce crossed the floor with the confidence of a man who'd never been told no. We need to have a conversation. Ryder didn't stand. I don't talk to men who beat their wives. The saloon went dead silent. Pierce's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Careful, stranger. Slander's a dangerous accusation. So's leaving bruises. My wife is clumsy. The doctor confirmed it. Your doctor lies for money." Pierce's hand moved toward his belt, stopped, smiled instead. "You're the boy from the wedding, the one Eleanor recognized." He pulled out a chair, sat down uninvited. "She told me about you. Cried about it, actually. Said you abandoned her after her father died. Left her alone and scared at 13 years old." He leaned forward. "Is that true?" Ryder's hands tightened on the glass. "Thought so." Pierce's voice turned venomous. "You don't get to ride into my town after 15 years and pretend you care about her. You had your chance. You chose the mountains. I chose her. She's mine now. She's not a thing you can own. She signed the papers, took my name, sleeps in my bed." Pierce stood. "And if you come near her again, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. Then I'll have my lawyers tie you up in court until you're bankrupt. Then I'll make sure every town between here and the Pacific knows you as a homewrecker and a coward." He buttoned his coat. "Or you can leave. Tonight. Disappear back into those mountains. Forget you ever saw her." "And if I don't?" Pierce's smile turned cold. "Then I'll make sure she pays for your mistakes. Every bruise, every broken bone, every scream." He leaned close. "And I'll make sure she knows it's your fault. That if you'd just stayed away, she'd be safe." He straightened. "How's that for incentive?" Ryder stood slowly. "You touch her again. You'll what? Challenge me to a duel? Shoot me in the street?" Pierce laughed. "This isn't some frontier fantasy. This is civilization. I own the sheriff. I own the judge. I own the land you're standing on." He gestured to his men. "These gentlemen will escort you to the edge of town. You've got 1 hour to pack and ride. After that, you're trespassing. And trespassers in my territory tend to have accidents." The hired guns moved forward. Ryder measured the distance. 2 armed men, Pierce behind them. A saloon full of witnesses who'd swear whatever Pierce paid them to swear. He couldn't win this fight. Not tonight. But he'd learned something valuable. Clayton Pierce was scared. Men who felt secure didn't make threats. They didn't need to. "I'll go," Ryder said quietly. "But not because you told me to. Because I'm not giving you an excuse to hurt her." "How noble!" Pierce's voice dripped sarcasm. "The guilty mountain man rides off into the sunset. Again." He turned to leave. Paused. "Oh, and Ryder? That's your name, isn't it? Ryder Callahan? How'd you— I make it my business to know who's sniffing around my property." Pierce smiled. "Eleanor screamed your name last night. In her sleep. Interesting, don't you think? My wife, in my bed, dreaming of another man." His eyes went dark. "I made sure she understood that was unacceptable. She won't make that mistake again." He walked out. The hired guns stayed behind, hands on their weapons. "You heard, Mr. Pierce," one of them said. 1 hour. Ryder looked around the saloon. Every face turned away. Nobody wanted to be a witness to courage. Too expensive. He headed for the door. Outside, snow fell in lazy spirals. Ryder stood in the street, breath clouding the air, mind racing. He could ride out. Disappear. Let Eleanor fight her own battles the way she'd been doing for 15 years. Or he could stay. Risk both their lives. Probably die trying to save someone who said she didn't want saving. Then he remembered her voice through the locked door. "I'm trapped. Not just physically, psychologically. The kind of trap that makes you believe you deserve the cage. Ryder made a decision. He'd leave town, but only far enough to make Pierce believe he was gone. And then he'd come back. Not to rescue Eleanor, but to give her the one thing she'd lost the night her father died and he disappeared into the mountains. A choice. 3 days passed, like winter dragging its feet through hell. Ryder camped in the mountains above town, close enough to see the Pierce estate through his spyglass, far enough that Pierce's men wouldn't find him. He watched Eleanor's window every morning and every night. Sometimes she appeared. Sometimes she didn't. On the 4th day, Mary found him. She climbed the ridge just after dawn, breathing hard, face streaked with tears. "You need to come back," she gasped. "Now." Ryder was already saddling his horse. "What happened?" "She tried to leave," Mary's voice shook. "2 nights ago. Packed a bag. Got as far as the front gate before the guards caught her." She wiped her eyes. "Mr. Pierce beat her so badly she couldn't stand. Then he locked her in the bedroom and told the staff if anyone helped her, they'd lose their positions and never work in this territory again." "Where is she now?" "Still locked in. He brings her meals himself. Won't let anyone else near her." Mary grabbed his arm. "She's not eating, barely drinking. Yesterday, I heard her crying through the door, and when I knocked, she told me to go away. Said she deserved it. Said she'd brought it on herself." Ryder's hands tightened on the reins. That's what he wants her to believe. "I know, but she's breaking. I can hear it in her voice." Mary's composure crumbled. "I've been too scared to help, too worried about my own skin. But I can't, I won't watch another woman die in that house. Not again." "What do you mean again?" Mary looked away. "The first Mrs. Pierce. She didn't fall down the stairs." The words hung in the cold air like smoke. "How do you know?" "Because I found her." Mary's voice went hollow. "At the bottom of the staircase, neck broken, but her hands—" She stopped, swallowed. Her hands were bruised, like someone had gripped her wrists, and there were scratches on the banister, like she'd tried to hold on. She met his eyes. "I told the sheriff. He wrote accidental death in his report and told me if I repeated what I'd seen, I'd be charged with slander." Jesus. "So I kept quiet, kept my job, kept my cowardice." Tears streamed down her face. "And now it's happening again. Eleanor's dying in that house. Slowly, piece by piece. And if we don't do something, she'll end up at the bottom of those same stairs with the same report and the same lies." Ryder mounted his horse. "Where's Pierce now?" "In town, meeting with investors from Denver. He left 2 guards at the house." "Armed?" "Always." "And Eleanor?" "Locked in the bedroom, 2nd floor, east wing." Mary handed him a key. "I made a copy, from the master set. If he finds out, he won't." Ryder took the key. "Get back to the house. Act normal. If anyone asks, you went to town for supplies." "What are you going to do?" "Give her a choice. And if she chooses to stay," Ryder's jaw set, "then I'll respect it. But she's going to make that choice free and clear, not locked in a cage with a man who beats her into submission." Mary nodded, started back down the ridge, stopped. "Ryder, if this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does," her voice cracked, "tell her I'm sorry for not being brave enough sooner. Tell her yourself when this is over." He rode hard toward town. The estate was quiet when he arrived. Too quiet. The guards were at the front gate, smoking and laughing about something. Ryder circled to the back, tied his horse in the trees, and scaled the garden wall the same way he had before. The kitchen door was unlocked. He took the stairs 2 at a time, each step creaking like a gunshot in the silence. Third door on the right. Ryder knocked softly. "Eleanor, it's me." Nothing. "Eleanor, I know you're in there. Mary sent me." Still nothing. He slid the key into the lock, turned it. The door swung open. The room was dark, curtains drawn. A figure huddled on the bed, back to the door. "Go away," Eleanor whispered. "Please, just go away." Ryder stepped inside, closed the door behind him. "I'm not leaving without you." "Yes, you are." She didn't turn around. "Because I'm not going anywhere. This is my life now. My choice. My consequences." "Eleanor." "He was right." Her voice was flat, dead. "You don't get to play hero after 15 years. You don't get to ride in and save the day. You left me. I survived. I made my own decisions. This is the bed I made." Ryder moved closer, saw the bruises on her arms, the cut on her lip, the way she held herself like every breath hurt. Did he do this because of me? He did this because I tried to leave. Eleanor finally turned. Her face was a map of violence, purple and yellow and green, one eye swollen nearly shut. "He said I was ungrateful, said I didn't appreciate everything he'd given me. The house, the security, the respectability." She laughed bitterly. Then he reminded me what happens to wives who forget their place. "You need a doctor." "The doctor works for Clayton. He'll say I fell, or I'm hysterical, or I'm lying." She pulled her knees to her chest. "That's how it works here. The truth doesn't matter. Only power matters, and I don't have any." "Yes, you do." "No, I don't." Eleanor's voice rose. "I signed away my power the day I married him. The law says I'm his. My body is his. My life is his. I can't own property, can't sign contracts, can't even leave without his permission. I'm a legal child, a ward, a possession." She met his eyes. "So tell me, Eli, what power do I have?" "The power to say no." "And then what? He kills me? I end up like the first Mrs. Pierce at the bottom of the stairs?" She shook her head. "At least alive I have a chance. Maybe he'll get bored. Maybe he'll find someone else. Maybe—" her voice broke. "Maybe I'll learn to be what he wants and the beatings will stop." "They won't stop." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Ryder crouched beside the bed. Men like Clayton don't stop. They escalate. Every time you survive, they hit harder. Every time you bend, they break you further, until there's nothing left but a woman too scared to breathe without permission. Eleanor's composure shattered. "Then what am I supposed to do? Run? Where? How? I've got no money, no family, no friends who'd risk crossing Clayton." Tears streamed down her battered face. "You're asking me to trade one kind of death for another. At least here it's slow. At least here I know the rules." "The rules are killing you." "Everything's killing me." She wiped her face. "You, him, this town, my own stupidity for thinking marriage would save me." She stood, wobbled, caught herself on the bedpost. "Now get out." "If you don't, he'll kill you. And then if you don't, he'll kill you. And then he'll make me clean up your blood. And then he'll spend the rest of my life reminding me that you died because I couldn't keep my mouth shut." She pointed to the door. "So go. Ride back to your mountains. Live your life. Forget you ever knew me." "I tried that for 15 years. Didn't work." "Then try harder." Outside, voices. Footsteps in the hall. Eleanor's eyes went wide. "Hide!" "No." "Eli, please." The door burst open. Clayton Pierce stood in the doorway, face twisted with rage. Behind him, both guards, weapons drawn. "Well, well." Pierce's voice was ice. "The mountain man returns. How touching." He stepped into the room. And how incredibly stupid. Ryder stood between Pierce and Eleanor. "We're leaving." "Are you?" Pierce smiled. "Both of you? Together? How romantic." He turned to Eleanor. "Is this what you want, darling? To run off with the boy who abandoned you? To become his whore instead of my wife? Don't talk to her like that. I'll talk to my wife however I please." Pierce's hand moved to his belt, pulled out a small pistol, aimed it casually at Ryder's chest. "And you'll address me with respect, considering you're trespassing, breaking and entering, attempting to kidnap a married woman." He cocked the hammer. "The law would call that a hanging offense." Eleanor stepped forward. "Clayton, please. He was just leaving." "Was he?" Pierce's eyes never left Ryder. "Doesn't look like he's leaving. Looks like he's playing hero, trying to rescue the poor, abused wife from her terrible husband." He laughed. "Is that what you told him, Eleanor? That I hurt you? That I'm some kind of monster?" "You beat her," Ryder said flatly. "I disciplined my wife. There's a difference." Pierce gestured with a gun. "She tried to abandon me, to break her vows, to disgrace my name. What was I supposed to do? Pat her on the head and let her go?" He turned to Eleanor. Tell him how you provoked me, how you disrespected me in my own home." Eleanor's voice came out small. "I tried to leave." "Why?" "Because—" She stopped, looked at Ryder. "Because I was scared." "Of what?" "Of you." Pierce's face darkened. "You had no reason to be scared. I gave you everything. A home, security, my name, and you repaid me with defiance and ingratitude." He stepped closer to her. "I should have let you rot in that boarding house, let you scrub floors for pennies. Instead, I elevated you, made you respectable. And this is how you thank me?" "I'm sorry," Eleanor whispered. "Sorry isn't enough." Pierce raised his free hand. Ryder moved, fast. He grabbed Pierce's wrist before the blow could land, twisted. The gun went off, loud and sharp, the bullet embedding in the ceiling. The guards rushed forward. Ryder released Pierce and spun, catching the first guard with an elbow to the jaw. The man dropped. The second guard raised his rifle. "Stop!" Eleanor screamed. Everyone froze. She stood in the center of the room, shaking, but her voice steady. "Everyone just stop." Pierce rubbed his wrist. "Eleanor, get out of the way." "No." "I said, I heard you." She didn't move. "I'm done following your orders. Done pretending this is normal. Done letting you treat me like something you bought at auction." Her voice grew stronger. "You want to shoot him? Fine. Shoot me first. Because I'm not standing aside while you murder someone who actually cares if I live or die." Pierce's face went purple. "You're hysterical. I'm done. You're my wife. I'm your prisoner." Eleanor met his eyes. "And I'd rather die than spend one more night in this house." The words hung in the air like a verdict. Pierce lowered the gun, smiled. "All right, if that's what you want." He turned to the remaining guard. "Light the carriage house on fire." "What?" Eleanor's voice cracked. "You heard me. Burn it down." Pierce's smile widened. "If my wife wants to leave so badly, she can leave in flames, just like her father." Ryder's blood went cold. "Clayton, no." "I'm done being reasonable, Eleanor. Done being patient." Pierce gestured to the guard. "Do it. Now. And make sure her bedroom door is locked from the outside. If she wants to die, let's make it memorable. The guard hesitated. Mr. Pierce, I said do it. Pierce's voice turned lethal. Or you'll burn with her. The guard fled. Pierce turned to Ryder. As for you, you're under arrest for assault, trespassing, and attempted kidnapping. Sheriff Boone will be very interested to hear how you broke into my home and attacked me. He called down the stairs. Sheriff, get up here. Heavy footsteps. Sheriff Boone appeared, hand on his weapon. Mr. Pierce? This man assaulted me. Arrest him. Boone looked at Ryder, at Eleanor, at the gun in Pierce's hand. Sir, maybe you should do your job before you lose it. Pierce's voice dripped venom. Arrest him. Now. Or I'll find a sheriff who actually enforces the law. Boone's jaw tightened. He pulled out iron shackles. Turn around. Hands behind your back. Ryder didn't move. You know this is wrong. I know I've got a family to feed and a boss to answer to. Boone stepped forward. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Outside, smoke began to curl into the sky. Eleanor gasped. He's actually doing it. He's burning the carriage house. And if the wind picks up, Pierce said calmly, it might just spread to the main house. These old timber frames go up so fast. He looked at Eleanor. But don't worry, darling. I'll make sure you're locked safely in your room. Wouldn't want you wandering around and getting hurt. You're insane, Ryder said. I'm decisive. Pierce watched the smoke grow thicker. See, I learned something from my first wife's death. Make it look like an accident. Fire's perfect. Tragic, but believable. The grieving widow, overcome with smoke, locked in a room because her loving husband was trying to keep her safe from the confusion. He smiled. And you, Ryder Callahan, will be arrested and charged with arson and murder. Witnesses saw you break into my home, saw you assault me, saw you threaten my wife. When the house burns down with Eleanor inside, who do you think the town will blame? The pieces fell into place. You planned this, Eleanor whispered. You were waiting for an excuse. I was waiting for you to push me far enough to justify it. Pierce holstered his gun. But don't worry. I'll make sure your funeral is beautiful. Maybe I'll even cry. He turned to Boone. Take him to jail. Keep him there until I decide what to do with him. Boone moved toward Ryder with the shackles. Do this, Ryder said quietly, and you're complicit in murder. I'm complicit in surviving. Boone's voice was hollow. That's all anyone does in this town. Survive. The smoke grew thicker. Eleanor ran to the window. The fire's spreading. It's already reached the stable. Then we'd better hurry. Pierce grabbed her arm, dragged her toward the door. Say goodbye to your hero, Eleanor. You won't be seeing him again. She fought, kicked, screamed. Pierce backhanded her. She dropped. Ryder surged forward. Boone tackled him. They hit the floor hard, wrestling for control. Pierce dragged Eleanor's unconscious body into the hallway. Lock this door from the outside. Make sure she stays put until the smoke does its job. Sir, the remaining guard's voice shook. That's murder. That's justice. Pierce's eyes glittered. She chose this. Chose him over me, over security, over everything I gave her. He smiled. Now she gets to live with the consequences, or die with them. Either way, I'm done. The guard stood frozen. Do it, Pierce roared, or I'll lock you in there with her. The guard grabbed the key, pulled the door shut. The lock clicked. Eleanor was trapped inside a burning house, and Ryder was pinned to the floor by a sheriff too scared to do the right thing. Smoke poured through the floorboards. Time was running out. Ryder drove his knee into Boone's gut. The sheriff grunted, grip loosening just enough. She's dying in there, Ryder roared. You hear me? She's unconscious and locked in a burning house, and you're helping him kill her. Boone's hand shook on the shackles. I can't. Yes, you can. Ryder stopped fighting, met the sheriff's eyes. You can choose, right now. Be the man who saves her or the man who lets her burn. That's it. That's the choice. Smoke thickened in the hallway. Timbers groaned overhead. Boone looked at the locked door, at the smoke curling beneath it, at his own hands, holding iron that suddenly felt like chains around his own soul. Pierce will destroy me, he whispered. Eleanor will die. I've got a wife, kids. So did the first, Mrs. Pierce. Boone's face crumpled. God forgive me. I knew she didn't fall. I wrote the lie anyway because... His voice broke. Because I'm a coward. Then stop being one. Ryder held out his hands. Give me the key, right now. Or live the rest of your life knowing you murdered an innocent woman to keep your job. Below them, glass shattered. Flames roared louder. Boone made his choice. He unlocked the shackles, pulled the bedroom key from his belt, pressed it into Ryder's palm. Go, fast. I'll hold Pierce off as long as I can. Ryder ran. The lock turned. The door flew open. Eleanor lay crumpled near the window, unconscious, smoke already filling the room like poison. Ryder scooped her into his arms. She didn't stir, didn't cough. Too much smoke already in her lungs. Eleanor, wake up! Nothing. He carried her into the hallway. Flames licked up the staircase below. The front exit was blocked. Backstairs! Mary appeared from nowhere, face streaked with soot. Kitchen door! Hurry! They ran. Behind them, timber collapsed. Heat scorched their backs. Smoke choked the air. They burst through the kitchen door into cold winter air and kept running until they hit the garden wall. Ryder laid Eleanor on the ground, pressed his ear to her chest. Faint heartbeat, barely breathing. Come on, he muttered, starting compressions. Come on, Eleanor. Don't you dare die on me. Not now. Not like this. Mary knelt beside them, crying. Is she? She's alive, barely. Ryder tilted Eleanor's head back, breathed into her mouth. Once. Twice. Eleanor's body convulsed. She coughed, gasped, eyes flying open. Eli! I've got you. You're safe. She tried to sit up, collapsed back. The house! Burning, but you're out. That's what matters. Eleanor's eyes filled. You came back. Always. He helped her sit. Can you stand? I think. She wobbled, grabbed his arm. Clayton. Where's Clayton? A voice answered from the smoke. Right here, darling. Clayton Pierce emerged through the garden gate, gun in hand, face twisted with fury. Behind him, 3 hired guns. Well, Pierce said coldly, this is unexpected. I was certain you'd both die in the fire. How disappointing. Ryder stood, putting himself between Pierce and Eleanor. It's over, Clayton. The whole town just watched you set fire to your own house, with your wife inside. The whole town watched a terrible accident. Pierce's smile was ice. A fire started by an intruder who broke into my home and assaulted me. In the chaos, my poor wife got trapped. Tragic, really? He raised the gun. But at least I can avenge her death by shooting the man responsible. Except I'm not dead, Eleanor said. She pushed herself upright, despite Ryder's protests. I'm alive, and I'll testify you locked me in that room, that you ordered the fire, that you tried to murder me. Will you? Pierce laughed. And who's going to believe you? A hysterical wife with a history of emotional instability? Against her respectable husband who's done nothing but try to protect her? He gestured to his men. These gentlemen will testify they saw Ryder Callahan start the fire. Sheriff Boone will confirm the mountain man's violent behavior. The whole town will agree I'm the victim here. I won't testify to that. Everyone turned. Sheriff Boone stood at the gate, weapon drawn, not aimed at Ryder, aimed at Pierce. "What are you doing?" Pierce's voice went dangerous. "My job, for the first time in a long time." Boone's hand didn't shake. "You set that fire, Clayton. You locked your wife inside. I heard you give the order. I watched you do it." "You're lying." "Maybe, but I'm the sheriff. My word carries weight, especially when it's backed by the truth." Boone stepped forward. "Drop the weapon. You're under arrest for attempted murder." Pierce's face darkened. "You forget who pays your salary." "You forget I took an oath." Boone cocked his weapon. "I've broken it for you too many times. Covered your tracks. Buried your crimes. Looked the other way while you destroyed lives." His voice cracked. "No more. Drop the weapon or I'll drop you." For a moment, nobody moved. Then Pierce laughed. "You think you can arrest me? In my own town?" He turned to the crowd gathering outside the burning estate. "Someone fetch Judge Harper. Tell him Sheriff Boone has lost his mind and needs to be removed from office." Nobody moved. An old woman stepped forward, Agnes from the general store. "I saw you," she said clearly. "Saw you give the order to burn the carriage house. Saw you lock that girl inside. Heard you tell your man to make sure she didn't escape." She looked around at the gathered crowd. "We all saw it. We all heard it. And if you think we're going to lie for you one more time, you're wrong." "I'll destroy every one of you," Pierce snarled. "You've already destroyed us," another voice called out. A shopkeeper Ryder recognized. "Taken our businesses when we couldn't pay your interest, foreclosed on our homes, ruined our lives because we couldn't afford your protection." He stepped forward. "You don't own us anymore, Pierce. Not after tonight. Not after we watched you try to burn your own wife alive." More voices joined. More townspeople stepping into the firelight. "My brother died working your freight wagons. You said it was an accident. You foreclosed on my farm for one missed payment. You threatened my family when I tried to compete with your business. You're a murderer and a tyrant, and we're done." Pierce's face went purple. "I built this town. I gave you jobs and commerce and prosperity." "You gave us terror," Eleanor said quietly. She stepped forward, still swaying, but her voice steady. "You killed your first wife. You tried to kill me. And you made everyone too scared to speak the truth." She looked at the crowd. "But they're speaking now. And so am I. You're my wife. You belong to me." "No." Eleanor's voice rang out clear. "I'm a person. I don't belong to anyone. Not you, not the law, not the church. I'm free." She turned to Boone. "Arrest him for attempted murder, for assault, for everything he's done to every person in this town." Pierce raised his gun. 3 shots exploded. Pierce's hired guns dropped. 1, 2, 3, before they could fire. Ryder stood with a smoking revolver he'd pulled from Boone's belt. Pierce spun, trying to aim. Boone tackled him. They hit the ground hard. The gun skittered away. "Enough!" Boone's voice thundered. He pinned Pierce's arms behind his back, snapped on the shackles. "Clayton Pierce, you're under arrest for attempted murder, arson, assault, and corruption. And every person here is a witness." Pierce thrashed. "You'll regret this. I'll have lawyers here by tomorrow. I'll sue you into the ground. You'll shut your mouth, or I'll shut it for you." Boone hauled him upright, looked at the crowd. Anyone else want to testify against this man? Speak now. Hands raised, dozens of them. My shop, my farm, my brother, my daughter, my livelihood, my life. The testimonies poured out like water through a broken dam, years of fear and silence breaking all at once. Pierce's face went from rage to realization. He'd lost. Not just the fight. Everything. Boone dragged him toward town. Someone get the doctor for Mrs. Pierce. And someone put out that fire before it spreads to the whole estate. The crowd moved into action. Eleanor collapsed. Ryder caught her before she hit the ground. I've got you, he whispered. I know. She looked up at him, eyes full of something that looked like both pain and relief. You didn't leave this time. Never again. Don't make promises you can't keep. I'm keeping this one. He lifted her. Now let's get you to the doctor. A real examination, not whatever lies Pierce paid for. Eleanor's fingers curled into his shirt. What happens now? Now we let justice do its job. Ryder started walking toward town. And you rest, and heal, and remember that you're stronger than any man who tried to cage you. Am I? You survived him. That takes more strength than most people have in a lifetime. Eleanor's eyes drifted closed. I'm so tired, Eli. Then sleep. I'll carry you. Promise you'll be there when I wake up? Promise. She slept in his arms as he walked through streets lined with people who'd finally found their courage. The doctor met them at his office, a gray-haired man with kind eyes and guilty hands. Lay her down, he said quietly, gently. Ryder set Eleanor on the examination table. The doctor looked at her bruises, her burns, her broken spirit wearing a broken body. His hands shook. I should have spoken up sooner, he whispered. When I saw the first wife's injuries, when Eleanor came in 3 weeks ago with bruises she tried to hide. He met Ryder's eyes. I'm a coward. I chose my practice over the truth. Then choose differently now, Ryder said. Document everything, every bruise, every broken rib, every injury that tells the story Pierce tried to bury. The doctor nodded. Will you wait outside? This needs to be thorough. Ryder started to leave. Eleanor's hand shot out, grabbed his. Don't go far. I'll be right outside the door. Promise? Promise. He waited in the hallway while the doctor worked. Mary appeared with coffee and guilt. I should have done something sooner. You did something tonight. That's what matters. Is it enough? It's more than most people manage. They sat in silence, listening to Eleanor's quiet responses to the doctor's questions through the door. An hour later, the doctor emerged. His face was grim. She's got 3 cracked ribs, second-degree burns on her hands and arms, bruises in various stages of healing indicating sustained abuse over weeks, possible concussion. Smoke inhalation damage to her lungs. He paused. And signs of malnutrition and severe psychological trauma. Will she recover? Physically? Yes, with time and care. The doctor's voice dropped. Psychologically? That's harder to predict. What that man did to her. He stopped. I'll testify, at the trial. I'll tell them everything I should have said months ago. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm part of the reason she's in there. The doctor handed Ryder a bottle. Laudanum for the pain, small doses, and make sure she eats. She's dangerously underweight. Can I see her? She's asking for you. Ryder entered the room. Eleanor sat on the examination table, wrapped in a clean blanket, looking small and exhausted and alive. Hi, she said quietly. Hi. Doctor says I'll live. Good. Says I'm lucky you came when you did. You're lucky you're strong enough to survive what he did. Eleanor's eyes filled. I don't feel strong. I feel broken. Broken things can heal. Can they? She looked at her bandaged hands. I married him, Eli. I said the vows. I chose this life. You chose survival. There's a difference. Is there? Her voice cracked. I knew what he was. Maybe not the full extent, but I knew he was dangerous. I knew his first wife died under suspicious circumstances. And I married him anyway, because I was scared and desperate, and I thought being his property was better than being alone. She wiped her eyes. That's on me. My choice. My mistake. No. Ryder moved closer. That's on a system that gave you no real options. That's on a town that looked away. That's on every person who knew and stayed silent. He took her hand carefully. You're not responsible for what he did to you. You're only responsible for what you do next. And what's that? Whatever you want. For the first time in your life, you get to choose. Really choose. Not survival. Not fear. Not desperation. He met her eyes. Freedom. Real freedom. To go wherever you want. Be whoever you want. Live however you want. Eleanor stared at him for a long moment. What if I don't know how? Then we figure it out together. We? If you want. What about your mountains? They'll still be there. Ryder's voice softened. But you won't be locked in a cage, and that matters more. Eleanor's composure finally shattered. She cried. Deep, wrenching sobs that sounded like 15 years of pain pouring out all at once. Ryder held her while she broke apart and started the long process of putting herself back together. Outside, the fire finally died. Inside, something new began to burn. Something that looked like hope. The trial started 2 weeks later, in a courthouse packed beyond capacity. Judge Harper presided with the grim expression of a man who knew his own complicity was on display. The prosecution called witness after witness. The testimonies painted a picture of terror disguised as civilization. Eleanor sat in the front row, hands folded in her lap, back straight despite the pain in her ribs. Ryder sat beside her. Close enough to reach, far enough to let her breathe. The prosecutor, a lawyer brought in from Denver specifically because no local attorney would touch the case, stood before the jury. The defense will argue this was a marriage dispute, a domestic matter. They'll say Clayton Pierce was simply exercising his legal rights as a husband. He paused. But attempted murder is not a legal right. Arson is not a legal right. Locking your wife in a burning building is not a legal right. It's murder, premeditated, calculated, and witnessed by half this town. Pierce's lawyer, an expensive suit from back east, stood. Your Honor, I move to dismiss on grounds of insufficient evidence. The prosecution relies entirely on the testimony of unreliable witnesses. A disgraced sheriff, a hysterical wife, and townspeople with financial grudges against my client. Hysterical? Eleanor's voice cut through the courtroom. She stood. Is that what we're calling survival now? The judge banged his gavel. Mrs. Pierce, please sit. No. Eleanor's hands shook, but her voice didn't. I've spent my entire adult life sitting quietly while men decided my fate. Not anymore. She turned to the jury. You want to know if I'm hysterical? Yes. I'm hysterical that I had to marry a monster because I had no other options. I'm hysterical that his first wife died and everyone pretended it was an accident. I'm hysterical that he beat me and the law called it discipline. I'm hysterical that he tried to burn me alive and his lawyer is calling me unreliable. Her voice rose. But I'm done being quiet about it. The courtroom erupted. The judge's gavel cracked like thunder. Order! Mrs. Pierce, one more outburst. Let her speak. Everyone turned. An old man stood in the back, weathered face, calloused hands. Former mayor before Pierce bought the position out from under him. Let her speak, he repeated. For once in this God-forsaken town, let someone tell the truth without being silenced. Another voice joined, then another, then a dozen. Let her speak. Let her speak. Let her speak. The judge looked at the crowd, at Eleanor standing small but unbreakable, at his own reflection in the window behind the bench. Mrs. Pierce, he said quietly, the floor is yours. Eleanor took a breath, walked to the witness stand, placed her hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. The prosecutor approached. Mrs. Pierce, can you tell the court what happened the night of the fire? My husband tried to kill me. She said it simply, directly. He locked me in a bedroom, set fire to the carriage house, told his men to let it spread. And when Ryder Callahan rescued me, Clayton tried to shoot us both. She met Pierce's eyes across the courtroom. Not because I broke any law, because I wanted to leave, because I chose my life over his control. And before that night, what was your marriage like? Eleanor's composure wavered. It was a prison. He controlled my movements, read my letters, chose my clothes, locked me inside when he left. And when I didn't obey fast enough, or smile wide enough, or submit completely enough, he reminded me what happened to wives who forgot their place. How did he remind you? She pulled back her sleeve, showed the jury the scars. With his fists, his belt, his words. Her voice cracked. And with fear. Constant, suffocating fear that if I pushed too hard, I'd end up like the first Mrs. Pierce at the bottom of those stairs. Pierce's lawyer objected. Hearsay. The first Mrs. Pierce's death was ruled accidental. By whom? Eleanor's voice turned sharp. By a sheriff Clayton paid? A judge Clayton owned? A doctor too scared to speak the truth? She turned to the jury. Mary Fletcher worked in that house. She found the body. She saw the bruises. She told the sheriff, and he buried her testimony, because it was inconvenient for a rich man to face consequences. Mary stood in the gallery. It's true. Every word. The courtroom buzzed. The judge banged his gavel. Miss Fletcher, you'll have your turn on the stand. Then put me on it. Mary walked forward. Let me testify. Let me tell them what I saw, what I've been too scared to say for 2 years. The prosecutor looked at the judge. Your Honor, I'd like to call Mary Fletcher to the stand. Objection! Pierce's lawyer shot up. This is highly irregular. The witness list was submitted weeks ago. And justice doesn't care about procedure, the prosecutor shot back. If this court is interested in truth, we'll hear her testimony. The judge hesitated, looked at the crowd, at the faces demanding accountability. Miss Fletcher, take the stand. Mary was sworn in. Her testimony came out raw and honest. I found her at the bottom of the stairs, Mrs. Pierce, the first one. Her neck was broken, but her hands... She stopped, swallowed. Her hands had bruises shaped like fingers, like someone grabbed her wrists. And the railing had scratch marks, like she tried to hold on while someone pushed. Did you tell anyone? I told Sheriff Boone. He told me to keep quiet or lose my position. Said Mr. Pierce was a pillar of the community. Said accidents happen and I shouldn't make trouble. Mary's voice shook. So I kept quiet, and I watched him marry Eleanor, and I watched him hurt her. And I stayed silent because I have children to feed and no husband to help. And one word against Clayton Pierce meant losing everything. Why speak now? Because I watched him try to burn her alive, and I realized, Losing my job is nothing compared to losing my soul." She looked at Pierce. "You killed your first wife. You tried to kill your second, and I'm done protecting you." The courtroom sat in stunned silence. Pierce's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, this is character assassination based on speculation and—" "Sit down, counselor." The judge's voice was iron. "The witness will continue." More testimonies followed. The doctor admitted falsifying reports. A freight worker testified about suspicious wagon fires. A banker revealed forged insurance claims. An accountant brought ledgers showing bribes to city officials. The evidence mounted like stones on a grave. By the third day, Pierce's defense crumbled. The jury deliberated for 20 minutes. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 20 years in territorial prison. No parole, no appeals. Pierce stood as they read the verdict, face purple with rage. "This is a sham. I'm Clayton Pierce. I built this town. You can't—" "We just did." The judge banged his gavel one final time. "Take him away." As guards led Pierce out in chains, he locked eyes with Eleanor. "You destroyed me," he hissed. "No." Eleanor's voice was calm, clear. "You destroyed yourself. I just survived long enough to tell the truth." Pierce was dragged from the courtroom, screaming threats that nobody heard. Eleanor stood in the aftermath, trembling, but whole. Ryder touched her shoulder gently. "You all right?" "No," she turned to him. "But I will be." Outside, the town gathered, not to gawk, to witness. Agnes stepped forward first. "We owe you an apology, all of us. We saw what was happening, and we looked away." "You spoke when it mattered," Eleanor said quietly. "That's what counts." "What will you do now?" someone asked. "Go back east? Start over somewhere new?" Eleanor looked at the burned estate, at the town that had caged her and finally freed her, at Ryder, standing close but not crowding. "I'm staying," she said. The crowd murmured surprise. "Why?" Agnes asked. "After everything this place took from you?" "Because running doesn't heal wounds. It just moves them to new locations." Eleanor's voice grew stronger. "This town needs to change. The laws need to change. The way we treat women needs to change. And I'm going to be part of that change." "How?" "Clayton's assets are being seized. The judge says some will go to restitution, to the people he destroyed." She paused. "I'm petitioning for the estate, not to live in, to transform, into a boarding house for women who need shelter from husbands like him. A place where marriage doesn't mean ownership, where women can rebuild without fear." The crowd went silent. Then Agnes smiled. "I'll help. I've got supplies I can donate. I've got carpentry skills," a man called out. "I can teach sewing, help women earn wages. I'll offer legal advice, pro bono." One by one, the town stepped forward, offering skills, resources, support. Eleanor stood at the center, tears streaming, watching a community transform guilt into action. Ryder hung back, watching, waiting. Later, after the crowd dispersed, Eleanor found him at the livery. "You're leaving," she said, not a question. "My horse is ready, supplies packed." Ryder adjusted the saddle. "Figured you'd want space. Time to heal without me hanging around as a reminder." "A reminder of what?" "My guilt. My failure. The night I left you in that burning barn." He didn't look at her. "You don't need that weight. Not after everything." Eleanor stepped closer. "Eli, look at me." He did. "You didn't fail me 15 years ago. You were a boy carrying guilt that wasn't yours to carry. You thought leaving would protect me." Her voice softened. "You were wrong. But wrong isn't the same as malicious. And guilt isn't the same as debt. Eleanor, let me finish. She took his hand. You came back. You stayed when it would have been easier to run. You gave me a choice when everyone else tried to make my choices for me. She met his eyes. That's not failure. That's redemption. I don't deserve— Stop. Her voice turned firm. Stop deciding what you deserve. Stop deciding what I need. Stop trying to protect me from yourself. She squeezed his hand. I'm not asking you to stay because I need saving. I'm asking you to stay because I choose you. Freely. Without fear. Without obligation. She paused. But only if you choose me the same way. Ryder stared at her. At this woman who'd survived hell and come out speaking truth. What if I mess it up? He asked quietly. What if I run again when things get hard? Then I'll let you go. And I'll survive. Because I'm not the girl you left in that barn anymore. I'm the woman who walked through fire and chose her own life. Eleanor's voice was steady. But I don't think you'll run. I think you're done running from the things that scare you. You scare me. Good. You scare me too. She smiled. Maybe that means we're real. Ryder looked at his packed horse, at the mountains in the distance, at the woman standing in front of him, offering partnership instead of possession. He unpacked the saddlebags. I'll need to build a place, he said. Something near town, but not crowded. Close enough to help, far enough to breathe. There's land on the south ridge, good timber, clean water. That'll work. He turned to her. But Eleanor, I won't live in that estate. Even rebuilt. Too many ghosts. I wouldn't ask you to. That place is for women who need shelter, not for us. She stepped closer. We build something new. Together. Slowly. No rush, no pressure. Just choice. Just choice, he echoed. She kissed him, soft and careful and full of possibility. When they pulled apart, she smiled. Now, help me tear down those gates. I want them melted down and turned into keys. Keys? For the boarding house. Every woman gets one when she arrives. A reminder that she can leave whenever she wants. That doors lock from the inside. That she owns her own exit. Ryder smiled. That's perfect. They worked side by side through spring and summer. The estate transformed. New paint. Open doors. Gardens where cages used to be. Women arrived. Some with bruises, some with babies. Some with nothing but the clothes they wore and fear in their eyes. Eleanor met each one the same way. You're safe here. No one owns you. You stay as long as you need. And when you're ready to leave, you'll have the skills and resources to build your own life. Some stayed weeks, some months, some years. All of them left stronger than they arrived. Ryder built his homestead on the ridge. Small cabin, sturdy barn, room enough for peace, but close enough to ride into town when Eleanor needed him. She visited often, sometimes to talk, sometimes to sit in comfortable silence, sometimes to fight about stubborn things, because real partnerships weren't built on perfect agreement. 2 years after the trial, on a winter evening, Eleanor sat by Ryder's fire wrapped in a blanket. The boarding house is full, she said quietly. We need to expand. How many women now? 15, plus 6 children, she smiled. Agnes is teaching them all to read. Says education is the key to independence. She's right. And Mary's running the accounts. Turns out she's brilliant with numbers, better than any banker in town. Ryder added wood to the fire. You built something good, Eleanor. Something that'll outlast both of us. We built it. You showed up when I needed help repairing roofs. When that drunk husband came looking for his wife, and you stood at the door until he left. When
I just hammered some nails. You showed those women what partnership looks like, instead of possession. That's more valuable than any roof." She paused. "Speaking of which, I have a question." "What's that?" "Will you marry me?" Ryder nearly dropped the poker. "What?" Eleanor laughed. "I know it's unconventional. Women aren't supposed to propose, but I'm done doing things the way I'm supposed to." She turned serious. "I don't need marriage for security. I have that. I don't need it for respectability. I've learned that respectability means nothing without dignity. But I want it. With you. As equals, as partners. As two people who choose each other every single day." Ryder set down the poker, knelt in front of her. "Eleanor Whitfield, I've loved you since you were a girl brave enough to run into a burning barn to save her father. I've loved you through 15 years of guilt and cowardice and trying to outrun what I felt. And I love you now as the woman who taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to act despite it." "Is that a yes?" "That's a yes." They married in spring in the garden of the boarding house. No church, no expensive ceremony. Just a judge who'd learned to prioritize justice over power, and a town that had learned to stand up instead of looking away. Eleanor wore blue instead of white. Her choice. Ryder wore no tie. His choice. Mary stood as witness. Agnes baked the cake. The women from the boarding house sang. When the judge asked if Eleanor took Ryder as her husband, she paused. "I do, on one condition." The judge blinked. "Condition?" "That this marriage is a partnership. That I retain my right to own property, to make decisions, to leave if I choose. That my husband has no legal ownership over my body or my life." She looked at Ryder. "That we're equals, legally and actually." The judge looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Whitfield, that's not how marriage law works in this territory." "Then change the law." Eleanor's voice was steel. "Or we'll go to a territory that will, because I'm not signing away my freedom ever again, not even for love." Ryder squeezed her hand. "I agree to her terms, all of them. Put it in writing, make it legal. I don't want a wife I own. I want a partner I choose." The judge looked at the crowd, at the women watching with hope in their eyes, at the precedent about to be set. "I'll draft an addendum to the marriage certificate," he said slowly, "recognizing equal partnership and individual property rights. It may not hold up in court, but it'll be in writing, and maybe someday the law will catch up to what's right." "That's all I'm asking," Eleanor said. They signed the papers, kissed as equals, danced in the garden while the sun set over mountains that had witnessed everything. Years passed. The boarding house expanded twice, then 3 times. Women came from across the territory seeking shelter and found community instead. Eleanor never took Ryder's name, kept Whitfield, her choice. Ryder never asked her to leave the boarding house work, never suggested she should stay home or be quieter or more convenient. They fought sometimes, about money, about how late she worked, about his need for solitude versus her need for purpose. But they fought fair, and they always came back to the same place: choice over control, partnership over possession. One winter night, 10 years after the trial, Eleanor sat in Ryder's cabin, watching snow fall outside the window. "You really didn't recognize me that night, did you?" she asked. "At the wedding." Ryder looked up from the book he was reading, smiled. "I recognized you immediately. The moment you lifted that veil, I knew exactly who you were." Liar. You looked like you'd seen a ghost. I had. He set down the book. I saw the girl I'd failed. The girl I'd abandoned. The girl who'd haunted me for 15 years. He moved to sit beside her. What I didn't recognize was the woman you'd become. The survivor. The fighter. The force of nature strong enough to tear down a corrupt system with nothing but the truth. Eleanor leaned against him. I'm still figuring out who that woman is. You've got time. Do I? She touched her graying hair. We're getting old, Eli. Then we'll get old together. He kissed her forehead. Still your choice. Every day. You can still leave. Doors always unlocked. I know, Eleanor smiled. That's why I stay. Outside, wind howled through the pines. Inside, the fire crackled warm and steady. Two people who'd survived hell sat in comfortable silence, choosing each other again without words. Because love wasn't a vow or a paper or a law that said one person owned another. Love was the daily decision to stay when you could go, to speak when you could hide, to fight when you could surrender. Love was freedom given freely and returned in kind. And in a small cabin on a ridge overlooking a town that had learned the difference between wealth and worth, between power and justice, between possession and partnership, two souls who'd found each other in fire built a life in peace. Not perfect, not easy, but real, and chosen, and theirs.